Big welcome everyone, and welcome to our live demonstration class on making Christmas stories. Again, they're just simple demonstrations showing you where you can actually go and purchase a ready-made base and then just decorate it yourself. So we're all in the Christmas spirit here at Case Flower School. Dear Santa, just bring the wine. This is definitely my type of t-shirt. So also it's V-neck. I much prefer V-neck rather than round neck. So how's everybody keeping? Comment below. Let me know who are you, where are you watching in from, and what's the weather like around the country. Also give me a bit of information. Are you all set for Christmas? Who has children? Who has Santa coming to their house this year? And again, who has their Christmas tree up and their decorations? So this time I'm going to keep the ribbons quite simple. I have this kind of like green velour ribbon, and I'm just folding it in a way that the print or the velvet is just on the one side. And I'm going to scrunch that in, and I'm going to do a little hairpin bend, hook it around the top of the ribbon, wind it around, and there is our ribbon for hanging down out the wreath, which I'm actually going to let it hang from the top, but I'll show you now in a few minutes. So I'm not going to put a bow on this particular wreath. So I'm going to start off with a couple of poinsettias and a little bit of artificial holly. So the pre-made base, okay, we buy these in from Irish Green, guys, and these are based down in Kerry. Now, for dividing up the flowers, you might find it easier when you're not using a bow. Put a flower at 6 o'clock and put a flower then at 12 o'clock. So I'm just kind of making a hairpin bend underneath and sticking it back up into the base. Do you see the way I've just placed in the two flowers? One at the top and one at the bottom. And then on the space on one side, say the right or the left, I'm going to insert two flowers on this side, and again evenly space them as best you can. So the sides that you're inserting the material on, always have that close to your t-shirt, close to your belly. And you're inserting the stem, and then you're bending it into like a U-bend and inserting it back up into the frame, and that's what secures it in place. So again, I'm now going to place two on the other side, and that just shows you how you can divide up the material, you know, that way, like the 6 poinsettias, and get them fairly evenly spaced. What I'm now going to do is add in a little bit of the artificial holly. Now you could add fresh holly. The only thing I find with fresh holly, if it's too early in the season, the leaves fall off it, you know, that way, and it just goes black. And then sometimes with the artificial holly, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, there's loads of berry on it. And what I find then is that you're cutting it into small little chunk. The piece that you're not using is where all the berry is. And the piece that you want to actually insert into the wreath has absolutely no berry on it at all. So I'm just taking the lazy way out of it. At least I'm guaranteed that I get a bit of berry on my door wreath by using the artificial holly. The great thing about these decorations, these can all be pulled out afterwards and then all reused the following year. I know I was talking to a girl recently at our Christmas workshop, and she was saying like every year she attends our Christmas workshop. That's what it's looking like so far with the artificial holly and the poinsettias. So she was saying she attends our workshop every year, and then her wreath every year, when it's finished after Christmas to New Year, she pulls out all the decoration and then she keeps it till the following year. So at this stage then she said, she still comes to our workshop every year, but she goes to our local shop in Rathfarnham and she buys then a plain base, and then she uses the decorations from the previous couple of years, and she uses them for placing on graves or giving as friends to other neighbours. And she says the same thing, she tells her neighbours and friends, don't throw all the wreath out, give it back to me, because again she recycles and reuses or upcycles all the materials and can use them all again. Like sometimes you might find with the pine cones the wires can be a little bit bent and crooked, and they're harder to use when they're bent, where when they're nice and straight they do go into the base real easy. But it's not a big job to undo the wire and put a brand new wire onto it that's nice and straight. Now I like plenty of pine cones on my wreaths, and I at least use 12 to 14 pine cones on most of my wreaths. And when I'm putting the pine cones in, I like to place pine cones to the outside circle of the wreath, but also you'll notice that I place pine cones to the inside circle of the wreath. And again, as I said, these are nice big chunky bases, you know, that way, so they're really, really full. Where the mistake I find is people keep everything in a straight circle, if there's such a word, you know, in a straight line going around in a circle. And it looks really miserable looking. Where if you kind of bring them to the outside and the inside, like what I've done there, it does look much, much nicer. Next thing I'm going to add in is a couple of little apples. So these little red apples, these are artificial apples, but you could use fresh apples as well, no problem at all. And to be honest, it would be cheaper to use fresh apples than it is to use the artificial apples. Like even this time of the year in the supermarkets, I see they have the satsumas or the mandarins. I often wonder, what is the difference between a satsuma and a mandarin? I'm not really sure. If anybody knows, comment below. But what you could do then is wire up them, and you could use them in your wreath. And people will say, well, they last. Should they last as long as Christmas is going to last? Especially in the cold, you'd easily get the munt out of them. Now, because I have no satsumas or mandarins here, what I'm using is a couple of the dried out oranges. You know, the dried mandarins. And again, I'm using a couple of these. See a bit secure there in the work. A couple of these in and out through the wreath, just to give it another little bit of texture. As I said, I like to put a lot of decoration into my wreaths. I know for some people you might say, God, you know what, Janette, it's a bit too much for me, and that's absolutely fine. I do plain ones sometimes, but I do like a lot of material. Again, comment below, let me know, would you prefer a plainer, or do you like lots of decoration in them? The next thing I'm going to do, I'm not finished yet by the way, the next thing I'm going to do is add a couple of the orange slices. Not that many, but just a couple of them here and there. And as I said, I have all these prepared. So you might be watching and saying, God, that's not taking her any length to make. Well, it's not taking me any length to decorate because I've already spent the time wiring and preparing all the material. And again, for yourselves, because I know we get people watching that have watched me loads of times, again, let me know, are you a newbie or are you an oldie? Have you watched us before, or is this all brand new to you? But for the people who have watched me before, I've been doing loads of demonstrations, especially during the month of November. I was doing lots of little step-by-step tutorials, showing you how to wire up your cinnamon sticks, your lotus heads, your pine cones, making all your bows, wiring up the dried mandarins, wiring up the fruit slices. I'm actually just struggling trying to get in there. So if that ever happens, just go somewhere else, okay? Because normally what's happening is you're actually sticking into a branch, and that's what the problem is. But I've been doing all these tutorials, you know what I mean, for the last couple of weeks, and you'll find them all on our YouTube channel, but also in our blog. I know there recently we added a step-by-step tutorial how to do a Christmas candle arrangement for going down the centre of your dining room table. So all you have to do is go to our website, www.kaysflourschool.com, click on the blog button, and that will bring you to that step-by-step tutorial. There's loads of different ones, okay? There is some more wreaths there as well. So just scan through them, pick the one you want to watch, and again, I'd love if you shared this actual video that I'm doing here today. Now the last thing, I think there's definitely enough in that now, the last thing I want to add is my tails of ribbon, okay? So I'm going to add the tails of ribbon in what I'm calling the top. So I've just decided this is the top. So I'm just inserting my wire down into the base, hitting the branch, there we go, we're going in there now, securing it underneath with that hairpin bend that I talked about, and again I'm just going to allow them two strips, you see, just to come down like that. And the very last thing I have to do then is add a piece of ribbon so I can hang it up on the door. So I'm just getting a long strip. This is just the cheap florist ribbon. I know O'Neill's Flowers has this for €4 a roll, so it's quite inexpensive. So I'm just going to hook this around the base, kind of in under the greenery there, pull it through. See, do I get the two lengths, okay? I'm just going to tie a knot, but just try and not flatten the foliage, okay? So tie a knot to secure it in place. And there you go. There you have your Christmas door wreath. If you would like to train as a florist or attend one of our floristry courses, even if it's just for yourself to learn how to do it professionally, to learn how to cost arrangements, know how many flowers and stems of flowers, the ingredients as we call it, to use, what the arrangement is going to cost you, how your formula will be worked out to work out your selling price, we have all of that information covered as part of our professional programs. So as I said, drop me an email, info@kaysflourschool.com, and if you would like us to ring you back, there's absolutely no problem. Add in your telephone number, request a call back, and I'll give you a ring back and we can discuss what would suit you best. Listen, thanks a million for joining in. A very happy Christmas, everyone. And anybody watching this on the replay, if you do have any questions, post them in the comments below and I'll get back to you all later on. Thanks a million. Bye bye.